Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out this evening to our Parks and Recreation public input session on park standards and development. My name is Jesse Rice. I am the City of Pasco Parks and Recreation Director, and I'm going to give a quick overview and introduction before we get the presentation kicked off, and then we'll open it up to comments as well. So, a little bit of history and background. In 2022, City of Pasco staff and residents worked on completing a Parks and Rec open space master plan, which is highlighted here in this manual, also available on our website, which involved the community and asking the community what they'd like to see in our current parks, what was missing, features, and things like that. And it also identified a set of goals for staff to work on to help implement those changes, improvements, and updates. One of those goals was to implement a set of park standards. Park standards would be used to help either build new parks, whether those built by the development community or built by the City of Pasco, or as we move forward to replacing some of our aging parks, also use as standards to help update those parks as we moved along, with the goal of providing equitable park access to everyone throughout the community. So. And why the city has always had construction standards when it's come to parks and landscaping that more involved manufacturing types of pipe or pumps or irrigation, not necessarily playground equipment, structures, or courts or anything like that. So as part of one of the goals as outlined in that plan, we contracted with MIG, a consulting company who helped complete the original Parks and Rec open space plan, to come in and help us develop park standards that again would be used by everyone in the community to help develop those parks. So this evening we are again. This is one of two outreach meetings. This is the one for public or park user input. We'll collect information from this evening, and MIG will prepare that, package it, and then we'll have another outreach meeting with the development community because they're also our partners when it comes to developing a lot of these parks as we as they build new housing areas. So. Let's see. So, and I guess some of the focus of the standards, we're going to talk about are structures and courts, landscaping, playground, and several other amenities. But the idea is that we'll have a simple, easy to use booklet or manual that either city staff or developers can ultimately pull out and open up. And when it's time to build a park based on the size of the park, the location of the park, be an easy to use guide that they can go through and select different amenities from to ensure that that park is built similar but different to other parks, and that they're all designed so that everybody again has fair access to those. And those things might be lighting, could be trailways, could be landscaping, type of courts. And while we want to ensure that they all are built to a standard, we also want to make sure that we have a variety of different features because again, parks are easily accessible by anyone in the community. So while we want a variety, we'd like to have a standard to help, particularly when it comes to developers and city staff, know what those features might be, what those features might cost, and how to move forward with budgeting and planning for those features. So this evening we have from MIG both Jennifer and Joey, who are going to take over the presentation at this point. And they have a prepared presentation as we work through that. If you have any questions, let us know. And again, myself, I have our recreation manager, our assistant city manager will be here to help answer questions at the end and collect any additional comments. So appreciate you coming out this evening. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer and Joey. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Jesse. And I just want to add, Jesse, so we're obviously here on Zoom and you're there in person, and we want to make sure we're just checking in fairly frequent on you all and making sure that, your voices are heard. It's hard to tell maybe who's got their hand raised or who wants to give feedback. So Jesse, we're calling on you to kind of help facilitate that piece of it. But as I'll just introduce myself, as Jesse just said, I am Jennifer Zell. I am a landscape architect, and I'm actually here in Los Angeles, but I was out there in Pasco back in March. And we also have here Joey Nielsen. Do you mind introducing yourself, Joey?
Hey everyone, my name is Joey Nielsen. I'm a project associate with MIG, here to help kind of record some of our comments that we're hearing from you all and help facilitate this meeting. So happy to be here tonight and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like we have just 2 people online, and we have most people are here in person. So thank you for showing up. And also, what we're going to do is we're going to adjust slightly. We're not going to use the phone and the Mentimeter to kind of record your feedback. we're just going to look for that feedback live, you know, on what we're presenting. So I guess you can put your phones in your pockets for now. And so let's see. The focus, Jesse went over the agenda. We've got the agenda right here for you. But really the focus of this meeting is an opportunity to hear from you and help you really what you envision for your parks and what you want to see in your parks, so that we can then take that information and incorporate into these design guidelines that we're developing. And so to do that, we're going to start with this presentation. We're going to give you a project overview, a few points about what we saw when we were out there in March. And we're going to have discussions as well of what you want in your parks. And so that's the presentation part. The next part we're going to move into on the agenda. If you could go back one, Joey, just so people know what to expect. This part's the presentation part's going to last about 10 minutes. And then we're going to move into what we're calling just precedents, like what's here at your park, but also what's at some nearby parks, and what are at some parks really around the country that you might be able to jog, you know, your memory or your inspiration from parks from other places around here. And we're going to go through that categorically. We're going to group them into context and organization, buildings and structures, and then we're going to have discussions and hear your preferences after each of these categories of things. And then what's not showing up on this agenda, but at the end, we want to have more of a free-form discussion where we hear from you, your feedback, and we drill in more specifically about these items so that we can better understand, you know, what's working at your parks, what's not working at your parks. And that'll be at the end. We're going to allow about 20 minutes for that more open-ended discussion and drill down session. And so as Jesse mentioned already, this project is an extension of the 2023 Parks Recreation Open Space Master Plan. There was extensive kind of community feedback in that for that effort. And also this was one of the main items to move forward, which is the design guidelines. And it was that next step identified in that specific document. And so with these design guidelines, in a way, it's also like a set of menu items for the park. As Jesse was describing, we want variety throughout your park, but we also want some consistency. And we want to make sure the community's getting really what they want in their parks, and they're guiding that development. And that what these design standards will do, and think of them as just a tool to help you get those high quality park design projects you want for your community. And so, and additionally, as we kind of go through this, we also want to understand what signifies Pasco, what is unique and identifiable as the Pasco community. And so a couple things that were learned from that, I'm going to call that Parks Recreation Plan, I'm going to abbreviate it. We call it the PROS planning effort. And that you can see on the next slide. That's so what that dealt with is a long range plan. And it dealt with all the different types of park throughout your community, the neighborhood parks, community parks, and more. And it's really a park system overview. And it also, importantly, that PROS plan is also about meeting the recreation needs that incorporate the city's growth. We know Pasco's had a lot of growth over the past several years, and it's more is anticipated. So it anticipates what those recreation needs incorporating with that growth. And so again, that PROS plan was a visionary plan, set up the goals and strategies, so the broad view. So now we're drilling down. And so the next slide indicates really a synthesis of what those overall park system-wide improvement recommendations were. And the first two we see up here are specifically about the neighborhood and community parks and park development within those design guidelines for these facilities. So, and as you can see in the first recommendation is that it's proposed the most important improvements are for those parks that are already there. Like a capacity project just means there's a park, but it may not have the right amount of amenities, and it can be the value to the community can be amplified by adding trees, adding landscape, shelter, different kind of amenities. Those things we're going to dig out into this presentation. And it also, that PROS plan also identifies some specific capital improvement projects for a couple of specific neighborhood and community parks. But really, the next slide is clarifies, so clarifies what it is we're talking about and what is within the scope of the design guidelines. It's specifically neighborhood parks and community parks. So a neighborhood parks are those parks you go to probably frequently. You live within a half mile, you can typically walk to that park, and those have design implications of those neighborhood parks. There's a lot more of them. You've got 21 sites in total of neighborhood parks. And then community parks are those draws, and they're intended for use for the entire city. And, they can accommodate higher levels of use and more facilities, more of a draw. So those need something, I would say, just more special in those particular places. And so the next couple of slides is before we move on to this one, though, I do want to ask a question. How many of you, and I'm looking at you, can you raise your hand? How many of you have been to your neighborhood park this week? Could you raise your hand? Okay, one. Oh, that's Brent, I think, back there. What about within the last week or 2 weeks? Have you been to one of your neighborhood parks? Oh, yeah, a couple more. Okay, what about your community park? Like, have you been to the community park? I know it's getting warmer and it's more park season. Have you been to your community parks within the last week or two? Okay, yeah, we got a couple. We got a lot of park visitors. Okay, so you're heading to both your neighborhood parks, but maybe more use in your community parks. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so when we went and we visited your parks, it was myself and my colleague Renee from our Portland office was in, and we were there, I think on March 13th, and we met with your team and your facilities, maintenance and operation team. And what we found, Joe, if you could go ahead and share. Well, we found some beautiful trees by the river, and providing just character defining areas are really in your trees, providing shade and a sense of place. But what we also found, kind of a bigger takeaway, is that the quality of these parks can be improved by increasing the variety of experiences and the number of amenities for visitors at these places. Amenities like more walking paths, play equipment, sports, even using artistic elements to expand and increase kind of the aesthetic character, and also community pride of place and park usage. And so, again, as Jesse mentioned, what these design guidelines will do is it helps the developer-funded parks to use that as a partner to really optimize the value to the community in providing these high quality park features that are appealing to a broad range of visitors, and including accessible and distinctive design features. If you want to go, can you go back to this one? Like, we found this one at Mariposa Park. It created a sense of place. It could be expanded on, but this kind of highlights some of those distinctive features. And we definitely want to get your feedback. But another aspect, and we can stay on this slide, but we notice is that new and upgraded parks, really there's kind of a lack of accessible routes to some of these features. Universal accessibility should probably be emphasized, and we want to hear from you of how important accessibility is in these parks, but universal access we think should be prioritized. And another big kind of level item we notice, there's a lot of lawns, and it takes a lot of water to irrigate those lawns. And I'm coming here from California, where we're reducing our lawns substantially because of demands on water sources. We know you have a beautiful river right next to your community, but even so, water, reducing those lawns to really areas where they provide a tremendous amount of play value and is optimized to really accommodate climate adaptation in your semi-arid climate, and just to achieve those kind of water savings goals. And then the next slide, is we saw a lot of different types of these park amenities. This is just showing benches, but there's a lot of types used throughout the park system, and it's not cohesive. And it may be desirable to standardize these elements. Those make maintenance and operations kind of benefits for unifying, but it also can unify the park. So hey, I'm here at a Pasco park, and it makes it more identifiable. And so let's head to the next one, Joey. So we'll go ahead and move forward to this piece of it, which are the precedents. But let me see if I'm just going to ask, can we hear from you? If you just speak there from the audience, can we hear from you? Or do you need to pass the microphone around?
Yes, I have the microphone.
Thank you, Jesse. The first question we want to ask, we show you some of what we found, but we're wondering if you can hear from you, the audience, just generally first, what's working at your parks and in these places? We want to know what's working and maybe what can be improved on. For anybody, what's working?
Well, we're out in West Pasco, and we have a very nice park that there's not a lot of facilities on it, but it's a nice big green open space that I do see a lot of kids playing in during the summer.
Yeah.
I live in the county, but I have family that lives all along Court Street in Pasco, so we are basically city as a family. But the boat launch areas anywhere in Pasco are just superb, and we need to have more of those because we're quite a river-oriented community.
That's great.
The Sacagawea Trail is pretty nice. It could use a few more connections, but pretty good.
Yeah. That is a fun walk. Anybody else? Jesse, I'm going to get you working back there.
Yeah, I think that's it for right now. Sure.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to go into the next piece of it, which are the precedents. And Joey, can you go ahead and share the screen again? And by the way, can you see this? Is this kind of visible to you? You can see what this going on here. Terrific. Okay, I see some nods. So what we will include in the design guidelines, and this first handful is kind of vague and sort of open-ended, but there are many ways to organize a park and arrange things within the park. And so one of them is how we arrange the circulation. And so it can be configured in different ways, sort of with a perimeter area where you have seating, and maybe you're protected with planting, or you can look out onto the more active areas within the park. This one is showing kind of a more leisurely, meandering pathways throughout. And so that's kind of just one precedent to look at. Circulation can also be organized, with a straight shot. And then there's kind of different areas off of this main spine, like you see in these images here, either play areas, gathering areas, or playground features. different lawns. So that's different ways of arranging circulation to the park. And another aspect is certainly adding distinctive features. And we want these defined in the these design guidelines because they're going to add identity and sense of pride, these distinctive features within your parks. They can be small water features possibly. I mean, we want to hear from you. Maybe no water features, too much maintenance, I'm not sure, but they can be small water features, can really be a draw, as well as just kind of artistic, playful elements as well. And then another one of some distinctive features can be special seating areas, but also the image on the right is just it's a pavilion, but it's also a flat concrete band. It's kind of like a band shell, but it's not a shell, you know, and it's not that large. It's really only like I think it's a 50 foot diameter space, but it hosts like jazz in the park. It's a very small kind of neighborhood scale park, and people can come and bring blankets. It's nice for that kind of use. So that's one of those distinctive features that can be included, as well as, you know, certain elements like art and sculpture. These are elements that really play to a unique sense of place and can tell the history of that place. And, you know, we saw evidence of this, especially in Chihuahua Park. I think as we walked along the trail, there was little stories that were told with signage, and there's some basalt columns that start to tell the story of place. But we think, you know, this can be accentuated and expanded on and included even in neighborhood and community parks, these types of elements. Yeah, and you can see here, it's just ways to embed history and place and discovery into your parks. And the next element for arranging a park is definitely topography, and using topography for seating and defining spaces for gathering, and also play, like you see in this image here, using it for slides and things. When we were in visiting Centennial Park, there's there are landforms there that help define like seating areas for parents or caregivers kind of watching playground, but also maybe sliding. I know you don't get snow that much, but maybe sliding. It just kind of it's a way to activate the space for play and gathering. And so there's one more to okay. So Jesse, we're going to put you to work again because we're not using our phone. Do any of these precedent image, can you envision any of these in your park? Do any of these resonate? And we can go kind of back and forth. Oh yeah, you can see that one here. Joey, go ahead and show that one. Are we getting close to being on target? Is this off? Is this on target?
All right. No takers right now, Jen. Sorry.
No takers. Okay, don't be sorry. Okay, we'll keep going.
It's when we get to the fundraising section.
Okay, buildings and structures. And should we just check in? Should we kind of speed up? Should we speed up? Slow down?
I think it's good. Yeah, go ahead. You've prepared all the slides. Let's all see them, please. Thank you.
Okay, got it. All right. So as far as our buildings and structures, we've got some restrooms, and we want to hear some of your preferences for restrooms. We know you have a couple in your larger parks. You have these permanent structures. You can go to the next one. Yeah, where, you know, some of them are more straightforward, but some of them are enhanced and more special in appearance and location. You've got these types of restrooms, easy to clean, maintenance maybe a little more expensive to put in originally. And this is what you have here now. We want to hear feedback on this, on these structures that house. We know there's some maintenance issues that go along with these these restroom structures housing the porta potties essentially. And your maintenance, you've got your maintenance and storage facilities here, as well as your shade structures and your shade structures for size. You have an existing variety of larger ones in your larger park that allows for larger gatherings, and then you have smaller, more standardized facilities within your neighborhood parks. It's really allows for just one bench or park bench underneath of it. And so we can add variety to and increase the amount of shade that's provided at these parks in different ways. Shade sails, obviously trees, small structure, larger structures like we see here. Okay, so any feedback on this, on the types of structures, in particular your restrooms and your restroom facilities? And we want to hear from like your neighborhood park as well as your community park. So the neighborhood park's the small one that you can walk within a half a mile. Anybody? Jesse's gonna get his 10,000 steps in.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I am concerned about restrooms and the quality and the cleanliness of them, and how much effort it is to actually keep them clean enough to use on a daily basis.
And is that in your neighborhood park or community park or both?
We don't have one in our neighborhood park. Go home.
I'm more concerned about the future community parks, and why can't we just have the composting units that the state and federal parks and recreation areas have, or camp areas, because these are kind of hard to maintain and they require, maybe water lines and sources and drain fields and all that kind of thing. And I'm more worried about open land that we can turn into park, and having places where people can out and away from homes where they can use restroom facilities.
Okay, so yeah, consider composting toilets in the larger parks. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's keep going. Yeah, site amenity, site amenities. So this includes like just standard benches, and so typically, and what's happening just like across the river from you is throughout the park-wide system, it's standardized. And so we want to hear from you if that's what you're looking for. I would assume, yes, you want a standard park bench, like I mentioned before, kind of eases maintenance and operation and replacement. There's some value definitely in standardizing these amenities. And so these amenities come in different families, where you got the bench, trash, different amenity families is something that we can specify in these design guidelines. Oh yeah, and you can see there where it's mirrored. If you don't mind going back one, Joey. This shows, your light standards, your benches, your bike racks, your picnic tables, all those are of the same family. So we want to know if that's desirable, because I feel like that's the direction we would be heading towards. And then also there's different types, of course, of benches. There's swinging benches that can kind of make a pretty interesting experience. It doesn't take a whole lot of space, but that can be some playful elements to add to a park. And also we want to hear back on different types of seating. Some of it can be based on organic elements within the site, like rocks. And so there can be some variation within each park where you might have a amenity, and then you may have exceptions to the rule to bring that unique character to different spaces. And this image on the left is very contemporary, but we do want to hear your feedback on that combination between contemporary and more traditional types of site elements. And of course, you do have picnic tables, and some of them are accessible, but we do want to incorporate accessible routes to those accessible picnic tables. That one's pretty straightforward. And also, I know you have grills at your charcoal grills at Chihuahua Park, but if there are other elements in those specific grills, like are there different types that you want to see? Are they too messy? We want to get feedback from you on those grills and those facilities. And then, of course, water features. They can come in all kinds and sizes, where they have dog bowls, they have water bottle fillers, and accessible drinking fountains, as well as incorporating. There we go. Incorporating signage into those park features. We saw that a lot. It seems like your community has a lot of donors that donate benches, donate signs, and different things throughout. It'd be great to sort of standardize where those donor plaques land and help to, get funding for these projects, but help to unify those donor provided aspects. And wayfinding, probably we don't need wayfinding at the community park, but I think at the neighborhood park, but wayfinding is certainly something that adds value and orientation at the larger community parks. So we're planning to incorporate those into the design guidelines, and also possibly small features like, especially by the boat launches and by the river, you can incorporate things like viewing binoculars, different kinds of signage that's interactive and maybe has QR codes that can more educational, interpretive signage along these routes. Let's see. So we'd like to this is our chance to get your I think this is an important one, to kind of get your feedback in the room on what we're showing now, and you can even raise a hand, like for seating style, like this simple traditional seating style. Is that something you prefer? Okay, yeah, we got one hand raised.
All right, thank you.
Okay, what about, so I think there's a couple, something more artful and distinctive and contemporary. Anybody preferring those? Yeah, okay, we got a couple of hands. What about swinging benches? Does that seem preferable? Yeah, Brent. Okay, all right. And some of these small scale features too, like grills. Is what you have adequate? Like these charcoal grills. I know this is at Chihuahua Park, but is that adequate? I know that it seems like they're used for gatherings. Do you have any specific feedback on those types of grills? Is what you have working? Yeah, okay. I'm seeing a nod. And with drinking fountains, like making sure in your community, making sure you have pet bowls, is that something you want to see as well? I don't know, that can be a show of hands. Are you bringing your pets there, and do you need to see pet bowls on those drinking fountains? No? Oh yeah, we got one, yeah, okay. And bottle fillers. Anytime the kids are playing sports, it seems like bottle fillers are important. Okay. Anyone else have any specifics about those kind of features, or even in particular, if you prefer like cohesive, all the same through the park, or variety? Does anybody prefer cohesive throughout the entire park? Do you like the variety that you're seeing now? Okay, you like the variety at each park have its own unique character. Okay, good to know. Okay, so I think we can keep moving on. Actually, there's a lot of slides, so let's keep moving on here. To the oh, and you know what? We have one person online here. I don't know. I would love.
So, if I can butt in, I've been monitoring the comments on Facebook and adding them to the chat as we go. We've seen some support for dog bowls, for swinging benches, and for natural materials.
Fantastic. Thank you. We've got all that recorded. Perfect. Okay. And so we'll move on to your play fields. I know you said you saw these open areas and a lot of use of these parks. So there's obviously, we know the priority is to not to stripe them necessarily, the open areas, to allow more different types of use, open-ended play in these smaller neighborhood parks for sure. And so, but for the community parks, that's where this expands, and providing these recreational value within the community parks is desirable. So we would love to get online or from Facebook community as well. What are those activities that you would like to see more visible and permanent within your park? Because there's soccer, well, pickleball, that's more for the I'm looking at the play fields in particular. There's striping, there's goals for a variety of different types of sports, baseball, softball, and again, I'm speaking here for the larger community parks, not the neighborhood parks. If there's feedback on that, that'd be great, of what types of playing fields you'd like to see there. And then again, we have sports courts. You have sports courts in your parks now, where it's primarily basketball, sometimes half-court basketball. But we'd like to hear if that needs to be expanded, and if so, in what direction? Pickleball, volleyball, yeah, like the one you see here. There's striping for a lot of different activities, and so that can optimize use here. Is there anybody want to offer? I don't want to make you, but does anyone want to offer feedback? Like, do you use basketball all the time? You want to play tennis, pickleball? Are there courts that you're not seeing in your parks right now that you want to see striped so you can play these games and your family can play these games? Is there anybody have specific feedback on those types of courts they want to see? No.
One for pickleball.
We have a comment online for pickleball, basketball, volleyball, and soccer.
And those actually fit nicely together. Like they embed, those different stripings can embed in a system. So that makes sense. Okay, and now we want to move on to different types of fitness zones. This is another way to activate those spaces and get your community kind of active and out there, and build a draw into these parks with different types of fitness activities where they can be, simple kind of stretching, muscle building activities, to more challenging, like the one you see on the right, and maybe in a community park. And they come for all ages and all abilities as well. These fitness zones are great to be adding to parks and having them within a community. And then the other option is for alternative types of recreation. And, one aspect, what we're showing here is a skate plaza. These is more of like a small scale features with a few things that add skating opportunities within a small, even a community park. And so we do want to hear from you, your feedback on adding these kind of small scale features for alternative recreation, for a skate park. And also, I know a lot of communities are just begging for pump tracks. And so there are some kind of modular units or different smaller scale aspects for incorporating pump tracks into some of these parks. So we want to hear, excuse me, some feedback on that, as well as interactive water features. We know you have some out there that can be a challenge to maintain, but I know they provide, they have the advantage because they're a place to cool down in the hot weather, and it's not a pool, that needs to be monitored all the time. This park, if you go up one, that's a park in Los Angeles. We did, and there's literally like 300 or 400 kids on the hottest days after school that I know you won't have that many. It's not as big as a community, but it's really a great place to gather and cool down. When my kids are little, I took them to these places all the time. And there's other ways of doing it. That one's larger scale, more associated with play and play environments, but using water as an element for cooling and also play. Keep progressing to the next one. Okay, so is there some feedback here specifically? And I would like to start even with the fitness zones. Does anybody use fitness zones when they go and travel around other parks and places? Do you imagine yourself using fitness zones in both your community and neighborhood parks? Is it something that's desirable?
We have one head nod in the audience.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
The fitness zones, I think, are better used when they're kind of spread out along a pathway where somebody can stop and do, sit-ups, have a sit-up stand or pull-ups or little things like that. I haven't seen the fitness zones where they're all grouped together used very well. But when they're kind of like circuit training almost along somebody's morning walk, they can stop and just do their 5 pull-ups or whatever and then continue on. Seems like those are a lot more popular.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
Thank you.
Rather than kind of collected. Okay.
We had a comment online suggesting a nature-inspired fitness zone might be similar.
That's great. We've got all that down. Okay, so what about alternative recreations opportunities such as either small size skate plaza or pump tracks? Do you have any feedback specific to that? And the interactive water features. Desirable.
I have one head nod for pump track.
I said we've had several failed attempts at water parks here in the Tri-Cities.
Failed as in maintenance. You're talking about maintenance associated with them?
I don't know why they shut down. They just operated a little while and all of a sudden they were closed.
Yeah.
And 5, 6, 7 years ago they were going to build one in Kennewick and one in Pasco at the same time. Neither one of them got built.
Yeah, but we are currently building one right now in Pasco, out at Road 108 and Harris in the new development area. Okay, yeah, it's currently under construction, due to open about this time next year.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Okay. So if there's no more related to those, I think we could move on. Excuse me. More for the passive recreation elements, because I'm hearing someone online interested in nature and nature play. So we're going to get to that as well. So trails, I think, yes, I think linking trails is definitely desirable, but there's obviously different types of trails, paved trails, just compacted earth trails that will be incorporated into these design guidelines. Picnic areas is pretty straightforward. We have those already. And I think it's important. We know you gather by the river for, I know, at least the 4th of July and movie nights, I think, as well. So potentially providing power sources for those areas, I think it becomes more important. So you don't have to have portable power, but other than that, it's kind of open gathering areas and picnic tables and shade is associated with picnic areas. And so we can move to the next one in passive recreation, which is, dog park or even dog friendly types of facilities. And I would love to hear, I know some have been proposed, but there can be just some elements if people bring their dog, they can play, certainly keeping them watered or a couple of features. But as far as like a fenced off designated dog park, my understanding that's not desirable. Is that correct, or is there any feedback there on like designated dog parks being desirable or undesirable specifically?
I think from the park side, we have heard interest both from the animal shelter that we operate as well as our park side, that there is interest from some in the community to have a dedicated dog park, and there are dog parks in the other 2 local communities as well. So I think probably, again, depending on who you ask, but probably is a resource that the community needs.
Okay, so then we include that in the design guidelines, fencing, all those materials, and then whether they get built, that's another piece of it. So that makes sense. Okay, that's good to know. Oh, and then for the trails, I don't think we need feedback on that. We're going to have both paved trails, and we'll have recommendations for both types of accessible and kind of gravel, really unaccessible in some cases, paving areas in the more remote sections. So I think we can move on.
Just a minute, Jennifer. We have a comment.
Oh, sure, please.
I'm sorry. There is a undeveloped trail belonging to the irrigation district between Road 84 and 100 that I see used all the time. Matter of fact, the local high school uses it for their pardon?
Cross-country running?
What? Just physical ed. They're not running, they're walking, the kids, most of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like a user-defined trail, maybe connecting a couple of things. Okay, so let's move, Joey, towards the play. I think this is a really important one, especially for communities and families. It's really nailing down what play features you want in your parks. Of course, there's different kinds of accessible play. We know we heard that this is important for allowing all users and abilities to use their parks. And there's different ways of doing it. You can keep going, Joey. Or progressive. Yeah. There's different ways of doing that. And we plan to incorporate these features into the park, as well as just ground level kind of interactive, accessible features as well. Music. And so there are different, we call them ings in a way. There are different activities that happen within the play experience, and those things get combined. It's pretty straightforward. It's like you're spinning, that's some play value. You can be zipping along and jumping and balancing, swinging, imagining. And all those kind of activities can be combined, but they can be combined in different ways and different styles, including nature-based play experiences like you see in these images. This is also some nature-based play. And also, different than nature-based play is using natural materials. You can use natural materials to create these kind of play experiences. And also what we call nature-inspired. So, like you see here, these materials are actually concrete and, artfully decorated concrete, but these would be what we would call nature-inspired. And I think one thing, could you go back a couple, Joey? Yeah. Oh, wait, a couple more to the nature-based. Yes, we do want to get your feedback on this because nature-based play is more open-ended. A lot of times things can get moved around. There are organic elements like tree trunks, and we want to know if these kind of nature play, nature-based elements are desirable because it's different than nature-inspired, which you see in the next handful of slides. You can progress it one more too, Joey. Yeah, like these types of elements would also be considered kind of nature-inspired. And another element we want to get your feedback on is like themed play, where different themes go throughout these parks and these playgrounds, animals, flight. It's a pretty common way to bring identity to the park. And then also just simple games. Sometimes playing tables can get people out and different types of users out at the park and places to gather, like chess or I call it cornhole, bocce ball, those different kinds of games and activities. Sometimes incorporating that can bring new visitors and users to your park. So here's where we're looking for some input again, in particular play and play preferences. If you want to see more traditional types of playgrounds, natural play, that's organic elements. Sometimes nature play is less accessible and prescribed in general, or themed play, or adding games. So I don't know if it's a show of hands or if we're getting some of this feedback online, but let's start with the show of hands too. Is it traditional play structures more favorable? So we got one for that one. Nature play, kind of using natural elements. I see an enthusiastic couple of hands for natural play. And then themed play. Anybody? Yeah. Okay. And then what about games? I mean, sometimes they don't get used, but sometimes it's great to have these different facilities. Do you imagine your community using some of these games? Like, maybe cornhole, bocce ball, maybe. Okay. Not. So I saw some enthusiasm for traditional play as well as nature play. I think we can move. I don't know. Are we getting anything, Alyssa, online or in the chat? I'm not seeing.
We've gotten several comments that are supporting the nature play and the more organic look. A couple suggesting the accessible swings and regular swings. One suggesting the games, and one suggesting toys that would be good for ADHD kids and special needs kids.
Yes. Yes, that's sensory. That's important. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Okay, and so I think we just have one more category of thing right now, and one is plants and landscaping. And I know, there's these need to be used in a targeted way, because we know there's a lot of windblown trash, or we know that there's a lot of maintenance involved with plants, but they can really define the character, and used in combinations with entry signs and things like that. They can really animate and bring character to the site. So we just want to show you a few precedent images here, including resilient planting. Yeah, which is more less groomed, more you can see some summer dormancy in a way. You see the seasons reflected here, dry season and more of a wet season and growth. You see in these images. And you can, and also utilization of tree groves. That's what we saw earlier, and I think those mature trees really provide a lot of terrific character and shade in your environment and beauty. I think that's a big good add. I know you're adding a lot of trees to your parks already, but strategic placement of trees for shade and is terrific as well. Possibly tree groves. And also the use of mulch, inorganic mulch is important. These rock mulches and combining it with boulders, in combination of landscape areas to reduce water, but also to reduce maintenance use is important. And doing it in an artful way, sometimes that mimics natural systems, but also adds to the character of a place, I think is going to be important to include in these design guidelines. Any feedback on, I want to say generally the planting and the look of more resilient kind of organic, dry weather appropriate types of planting? I see some nods. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Thanks, Jesse.
We did get a comment earlier as well about more drought-resistant grass as a suggestion.
Mm-hmm. And of course, trees. I mean, everybody, I'm sure, trees and rock mulches. Okay, so that really covers kind of the different sorts of precedents that we wanted to hear from you. And I know we did get some drill down comments, but in some of these areas. But is there is there anything we missed that you came out here tonight? Is there anything we missed, or is it anything you want to make sure we know and we hear from you as far as your community and neighborhood park? So this is a more open-ended discussion here. And even the people online, if they want to, Alyssa, can they speak? Like, can they get unmuted and speak and raise their hand?
If we have hands raised, yes, we can unmute.
Got it. Okay. So is there anything we missed? Yeah.
Yes, what I'm noticing is that your neighborhood parks are people-based, and from where our group and our organization and all of our volunteer efforts are coming from our based on that river, which is the lifeblood of our entire community, and anything within 200 feet of the shoreline of those are, and most of our community parks are right along the river. And so everything I think on these community parks that are on these rivers need to be focused on the aspects and elements of nature that you've provided here, and don't try to make them into something they're not. I realize that Howard Amon has done that now and made it into more like a neighborhood type park with all the activities, but Pasco should stay true to its focus on the river itself and the elements that come from that. That's really where I think West Pasco should be.
Yeah, thanks for that. And so those, in collaboration with those uses, a kind of passive uses of walking, biking, yeah, in those community parks and gathering, but making sure those are nature based and inspired by the river and the natural beauty all around there. That's what I'm hearing. Did we miss anything you want in your parks?
I have one comment online saying connectivity to the parks from neighborhoods and designated park needs to be addressed for multi-mobility transportation needs. And another comment for accessibility for people with disabilities, blind kids, for example.
Yeah, for signage and other things. Okay, that's really covers kind of a lot of what we wanted to get feedback. You know, we wanted to just hear from you about your parks and make sure, we get that information and we incorporate that into these design guidelines. And there will be, Jesse, I think we do want to share next steps and kind of when they can be reviewed specifically with the group. I think we will be developing these design guidelines and then they can be shared and reviewed with the community as well.
Yeah, so I think we'll take our feedback that we received this evening, and you'll take that feedback and continue to incorporate and update the draft concept we're working on. We'll again have a second outreach meeting to our developer community so they can hear the community's input, see some of the standards, and give us direction on how they'd like to see a guideline created that would make it easiest for them to develop. Ultimately, that'll be finalized into a final draft, which will be presented to City Council and be made available to the public at that time. And that'll give City Council a chance to review that, as well as provide a public input comment section at that time as well. With ultimately looking for a final adoption as we move through to have again a set of standards that will be available for developers, city staff, and citizens to understand as we're creating and developing or replacing new parks, how we've got there and why they're designed as they are.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's an exciting opportunity to really get what you want here in your community and leverage that growth that's happening and incorporate, give it structure and steer the ship in the way you want it to go. So thank you. We appreciate your feedback and your input here.
With that, I'll invite those that are joined us virtually, either in our Teams meeting or on Facebook. If you have any additional questions, we'll keep it open for just a couple more minutes here. And if not, you're still able to also use our online form to submit your comments, which we'll also collect and be forwarding to MIG to incorporate into overall comments as well. So thank you for joining us, and we will keep it open until 7:10 p.m. And at that time, we'll shut our meeting down and start working on the results. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Use the microphone so Jenny can hear us.
Our group of very enthusiastic retirees have had our eye on this for 3.5 years, and we started north at the Ringgold Fish Hatchery, and then we paddleboarded and have walked and hiked, and now we're doing video taping and documentaries with Bruce Bjornson now. Bjornstedt is helping us out with this, and boy, if he isn't famous for good work. And on down the river from the agate beds on down to Carbody Beach, on down to the Squatsville diversion canals and the wonderful fishing spots there at Self Landing, the boat launch those are very rustic, absolutely hard to get to, sometimes very dangerous. They're dirty, but they're very highly used in this county. And as I watch that population growth grow out to the west and now starting right upriver to the north, we don't need refined parks because we've got these people using these other spots way north. In mass, these people enjoying these areas. Why do we need all these refined parks when that's working out in the county? Why can't the city along their shorelines along the river kind of tone down some of all this maintenance and liability and improving, just keep it simple and basic like the people are enjoying way far north on the river in the county? Because we're certainly documenting it all now and getting it. We're going out to the public with this, and we will not be silent from now on. Our retiree group. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments from those attending in person this evening?
Pasco has probably the best shoreline for a possibility of a beach. I don't know, the land around here is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers and you're just leasing it probably, but it would be a great amenity to some place like Chiawana, because Richland is a little too steep and Kennewick has riprap. So
Thank you.
We have a comment online saying there's a need for more parks with wheelchair paths through them.
Jenny, you're on mute if
You're
you're,
muted,
if you're
so
trying to talk.
Thank you. Can I ask a clarifying question about the beaches? I don't remember if it was Richmond or Kennewick, where you said there was riprap, but there's also a sand beach there. Which one? Can you elaborate on which one you're describing is working well? Understanding it's Army Corps of Engineer property.
Richland is the only one with kind of a sandy beach. Kennewick doesn't have a place of any sand.
And so what you were describing is desirable is the Richland sandy one?
Yeah, sandy. This one, Pasco actually has the topography to have a shallow sandy beach, whereas everyone else, like Kennewick, is mostly dikes from the Army Corps of Engineers and the dam, McNary Dam.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I don't see any additional comments from our in-person attendees. Melissa, any more online comments? So, all right, with that, I would like to thank everybody for their time this evening and listening to our plan. As I outlined, more steps ahead, so we're no near the final on this, and will be some time for additional public comments. So those interested, please continue to follow along. The City of Pasco website will continue to announce opportunities to do so, and we look forward to seeing you at those. Thank you.